All right, we're recording the cloud and we will start the meeting. So folks, you will see attendees start joining us now. Let's give them a couple of minutes. Nicole, I have to make you a co-host, so I will do that. That way you will be able to share your screen. There are more attendees joining. Let's give it another minute or two. Okay, perhaps our interpreters would like to speak now and let folks know how they can use their services.
Buenas noches a todos. Bienvenidos. Si necesitan interpretación en español, por favor marquen en sus teléfonos el número 646-558-8656 y ingresen el código de la reunión 982-9095-2882 y signo de número. Les repito, para traducción en español, marquen en sus teléfonos el número 646-558-8656 y el código de la reunión 982-9095-2882, signo de número. Gracias. Thank you.
如果您需要普通话的口译，请拨打这个电话号码，输入该会议代码。电话号码是646-558-8656。我们的会议邀请码还有那个密码是950-49553。再说一次，我们的会议电话号码是646-558-8656。我们的密码是950-9349-6553，谢谢。
And folks, we obviously have closed captioning tonight, but it's only set up for English, so that's a little difficult when we're interpreting. Do we have those phone numbers that we can post up to the chat, and we will post them here and there? We will try to get that. Victor, it's your meeting, but I do need to call roll whenever you're ready to start.
Absolutely, I call meeting to order. 6:05.
I'll call the roll then.
Yes, sir.
All right, board members, I am just going to call committee members right now. When I call your name, please unmute yourself. Let us know you're here and then mute yourself again. If you were a board member, but you are not a committee member, I'm not going to call your name at this time, but I will acknowledge you during the meeting. Victor Swinton.
Present.
Fred Wolf. Sylvia Augusto.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Johanna Bjorken.
Here.
Joan Body.
Here.
Stacy Boyd.
Here.
Joseph Canale.
Here.
Mary Jo Eister.
I'm here.
John Fontillis. Zach Jassy. Daniel Murphy. Katie Walsh. All yours, Victor.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Parks Committee. We have two things on the agenda today. Two presentations, one from Steiner Studios pertaining to the playground and Bush Terminal Park, and also a presentation from Parks about a Parks public art installation in Sunset Park. So I would like to thank our guest Elizabeth Marcella, if she's here, and Doug Steiner and his crew for being with us today. I will ask. I'm gonna let presentation from New York Parks go first, because I think the Bush Terminal part of it with Steiner will be a little more lengthy. So I will let New York City Parks Department go first. I just ask that, like Jeremy said, please stay muted. Put your hand up in the chat. Raise your hand. We'll get in contact with you. We'll go by the committee first, then our board members, then definitely the public. We will hear your questions, and we will get to everyone today. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Parks for their presentation.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes,
great.
you're up. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Masella. I'm the Senior Public Art Coordinator with New York City Parks. I am joined by the artist, but I don't see her here.
What's her name? She may be an attendee.
It's Judith Modrak. She has a few slides that she'll be sharing.
Jeremy, she's an attendee.
Yep, okay. Let me make her a panelist. And she's joined us.
Great, thank you. So before I turn it over to Judith, I'll just share just a little bit of background about the program. We have done some projects in Sunset Park. The most recent one I can remember would be Cecile Chung's installation a few years ago, which were these little sculptures in one of the planting beds. The Art in the Parks program, we permit temporary public art exhibitions in parks citywide. Temporary public art exhibitions are on view for up to 1 year, though many are shorter than that. We work, as I said, in parks citywide. The way our program works is artists come to us with proposals. Sometimes they have a location in mind, sometimes they don't. We'll work together to make sure that artworks are going to be securely installed. The artist is required to maintain the artwork for the duration of the exhibition. So if it's damaged, graffitied, anything like that, they are required to address that in a timely manner. They are also required to restore the site at the end of the exhibition. So once the artwork comes out, they'll make sure that the park looks as good or better than when the artwork went in. The artworks are also fully insured. So in the event, unlikely event that anything were to happen, that is in place. So now getting to Judith's work, she has a single artwork that will be going into Sunset Park in a location where there's currently just a tree stump. She'll speak more about the inspiration behind the work, but we're looking at an April to December installation. It's called Modern Fossils, and I think maybe at this point it might be good for Judith to just show you some images, and she can speak a little bit more eloquently about the work than I can. So Judith, I'll turn it over to you.
So Judith, I'm also going to make you a co-host so you can share your screen at the appropriate time.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jeremy. And thank you, Elizabeth. And this is actually the second time Elizabeth and I have worked on a project together. So I'm very excited to be working on another one. The Modern Fossils. So I will attempt, Jeremy, now to share my screen and I can share the deck. I am also in my studio. I'm in New York City.
We've got it.
Are you all seeing my screen?
We've got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that's just a little bit about me. This is your lovely, beautiful park. That is so wonderful. And in fact, this is the location in the park where we've cited modern fossils. The larger idea for this project is to invoke the fossil record of maybe over 400 million years ago of ammonites and branchiopods, and bring that into a modern context and consideration in terms of the fossil record that we'll be leaving behind when we are no longer here. So I think it becomes especially relevant during these times. And the piece itself is approximately 8 feet by 5 or 6 feet. So these photographs on the left are more or less to size. That's Elizabeth bundled up. And then next to her is Denise Palmer, who I don't know if she's on the call this evening, Parks Manager in Brooklyn, Regional Parks Manager. So we had a treat of being there a few weeks ago, I think. And this is a tree stump that Elizabeth mentioned. As we move into details, this technical drawing, fabrication. As Elizabeth mentioned before, the sculpture will be securely anchored to the base and the tree stump. There are also, if any maintenance is required, obviously I will be attending to that and coming quite often to your amazing park. And the proposal is for community outreach, and I would very much welcome and want to engage with local schools and in any other capacity that is possible. So I also wanted to share, are there any, I'll pause there, are there any questions about the presentation so far?
I don't see no raised hands.
Pardon?
Okay, no, I don't see any raised hands, so you could go ahead.
There's one raised hand by an attendee.
right.
Two raised hands by attendees.
All right, let's take those questions.
Okay. I have Krista Kavuris first. We'll allow you to talk. You can unmute yourself. Krista?
Hi there. Yep, I just unmuted.
Okay, donc dans la dispute, Mario, entre les blancs, il y en a un qui dit tu vas te lever, espèce d'ânesse.
Yeah, I'm just hearing
D'abord, bah, du monsieur, je
French
suis pas
overlap.
j'ai payé un ticket comme
Oh.
vous. Comme il y a assez de place pour tout le monde, donc je serai
Is anybody else hearing that?
Yep.
Can you just mute other folks, please?
Anna, tu sais ce que c'est un...
Okay. Okay, that was odd. Hello. I just have a question about the sighting. Is that adjacent to that really, really big tree that is also the off-leash hours area?
No, that tree is in the distance. It's in back of. This is in front of, which, let's see. The big oak tree you're referring to is in back of, if you're looking directly at the sculpture, it would be in back of and over to the right.
Yeah, I guess, is it separated? The lawn that the biggest tree is on is
It's
the
on
big
a
oval.
separate lawn.
It's on a separate it's separated by a path. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, just because that lawn is, very populous with dog owners in the morning, and it just, okay, thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
We
No.
wanted to make sure we avoided any, I know there's a lot of areas of the park that are very heavily used, so we wanted to be mindful of just not taking away or impacting those areas, which is why this tree stump that's already there kind of marked out a spot that's kind of, I guess, not a landmark, but.
Great, thanks so much.
I have Victoria
Well,
Messina.
it was really appropriate for the larger concept of the work, that it's emanating, it's coming out of, it's springing from a tree stump of an organic form that had existed before. So there's a lot of really wonderful symbolism in the fact that it's on this tree stump as well.
I have Victoria Messina next. Victoria, you can unmute yourself now.
Hi, yes, I just put this in the Q&A, but I just wanted to know, is this something that people will be welcome to touch and that potentially kids can play on?
Definitely touchable, and I'm sure some kids will crawl on it. It's not, Elizabeth, were you going to chime in?
Yeah. So it'll be, built to withstand some interaction. If it is a concern of the community about climbing, we do have do not climb on sculpture signs that we can provide. But it is not super tall, but I think Judith's work is meant to be touched and kind of investigated in that way.
And very important to me actually is that these pieces are completed by the public. And in fact, I want to just toggle forward to the other installation that I had with the New York City Parks Department, and Elizabeth and I worked really closely on. This spanned 2018 and 2019, and it was both in Thomas Paine Park in Lower Manhattan, as well as in Central Park. And the project was called Our Memories, and it was an interactive participatory project where basically all the people gave the sculptures life. So the sculptures started out as these empty vessels, and then an individual would recall a powerful memory and then classify that memory into one of 6 different emotive categories of love and joy and fear and sadness and surprise. And then they would deposit the stone in the sculpture. So as the sculptures collected more and more memories, from thousands of people all over the world, it was quite amazing. They really came to life. So people gave the sculptures life. Actually, there were proposals that happened in real time in Central Park, which was really special. So a lot of my work is about this idea of interactivity and audience participation, and certainly having the people complete the work. So I very much want people to be involved in the sculptures, to be curious about the sculptures, and I hope that fosters a dialogue between the work itself and what it's evocative of, and then also, as I mentioned before, that this larger project, Modern Fossils, is about the fossil record. And so it's about thinking about that footprint, the eco footprint that we leave, as well as the one that has been left for millions, if not billions of years.
Folks, we have Stacy Boyd next. I just want to make sure we keep moving.
Sure.
We gotta lengthy agenda.
I appreciate it. I know I get very excited. I'm sorry.
I totally understand. But I have Stacy next.
Interrupt me. Okay.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on Victoria's point. I'm pretty sure kids will be climbing on it. So if that isn't your intention, you probably do want to put a sign, because that space with the tree stump and everything and the lawns, like, they are very well used. And if it's inviting touch, it'll be inviting climbing.
And Elizabeth, for any signs in our parks, they should be in at least 3 different languages.
Yeah, we actually have multilingual no climbing signs.
Great. I have Natasha Cordero next.
We have two questions in the Q&A.
Okay.
One from Summer Sandoval. What was the community engagement process to create this sculpture?
I'm sorry. For this particular piece and within Sunset Park.
Yes.
So we, through the process of working with Elizabeth, and it's been a little, tough because of COVID. Sunset Park has always been a very special park to me when I go to visit in Brooklyn. So that was something that resonated deeply. As far as extensive community outreach. I would really like to begin that dialogue now. So I don't know if anyone on the board has recommendations about local schools or other possibilities to involve the community in a conversation about the work.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is from Vanessa Cordero. Is it safe for children to climb on?
Yes, it will be safe for children to climb on. I mean, it's not, you know, what is it? It's like, Elizabeth, I don't know how we would describe it. It's not like it's a playground toy, but it will be definitely safe for children to climb on it.
It won't like, I guess what you, it's not designed to invite climbing. You know, again, we expect people might interact with them. People interacted pretty heavily with Judith's pieces in Thomas Paine Park, but it'll be built to withstand that. Like, we don't really have concerns about pieces like breaking off and hurting people, but like we said before, we can also provide those multilingual no climbing signs.
I think the intention would be definitely to welcome engagement and to have people touching and, you know, wandering. And I don't know how much like really sitting, that's not necessarily, or maybe they will, I don't know. But the sculpture itself is very durable, eco-friendly, and, you know, perfectly suitable for that. But I don't really, so I'm not sure. I mean, I think Elizabeth answered the question. Did that answer the question for you?
Yes, I believe so. That
wasn't her question.
That wasn't my question. It was from an attendee in the Q&A.
I have Nick Azadia next.
I have a brief question. I'd first like to start out by saying, you know, the sculpture is very nice, and I'm sure there was lots of effort that went into it. I can't even imagine the amount of effort that went into it. My question more relates to is I don't understand how it fits in the park. You know, excuse me, I'm not the most artistically minded in the least bit, and to me it sort of looks kind of like an asteroid that's sitting in the middle of the park, and I don't understand how it meshes or, you know, how it belongs. So if that could be explained a little bit more, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay. Well, one thing, the idea is that, you know, hundreds of millions of years ago, New York State was in a shallow riverbed. So during the Devonian period, and in fact, many areas now that are land, including Manhattan, were also submerged underwater, where there were fossils like ammonites. And one other thing that I should mention is that is illustrative. That's not the final sculptural form. So the final sculpture will be more reflective of this ammonite shape, which you see right now, and in other past projects. And if you can see this on the screen. And so it was really important that the sculpture be in a location where you could see the East River, you could see a river, you could see a body of water, because that's central to the...
I guess then maybe a suggestion would be, because I didn't immediately place it, I'm rather familiar with the geologic history of New York and particularly this area, I guess maybe a plaque kind of explaining that in the bottom or something like that. And then that could possibly be used as like a curiosity or educational tool to kind of link everything. Otherwise, if I was just looking at it, I mean, I gave you my opinion, you know, it's like I couldn't tell, you know, and so I think you might need some of that to kind of explain it a little bit more. And, you know, that could be probably very useful to connect Sunset Park now to, you know, what it was millions of years ago.
Yeah,
Billy's next. Billy's next.
Great feedback.
His hand up.
Hi, I'm sorry. There was background noise. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, to me, it looks like a fish, but that's me, and I'm not that artistic myself. I guess the question of community involvement is, what was the community involvement at all, if any, to even select the theme and the artwork that you have created?
So community theme is, I have a group of artists in the studios within Sunset Park, so I go there with some regularity. As far as the concept for modern fossils is an artistic one, so that larger concept is something that has come from my body of work. In fact, a prior project that I did in Spain, in Murcia, called Fluid Pathways, was very much about the composition of the earth and the different layers within the earth and how those layers mimic our cellular and neural patterns. So that body of work, Fluid Pathways, inspired modern fossils. And then what inspired the selection of the site was, parks are very important to me, and I go to parks all the time, in fact, as all of you do, and I love parks. So looking at parks with the parks department and trying to visualize a park that had a lot of synchronicities with the project, because I felt very, very close to Sunset Park. It's a jewel of a park.
I think we're gonna have to.
Yes. Oh, sorry. So
we're over the time that we've needed for
Jeremy,
a second portion. Folks, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Folks,
Please mute yourself.
Please mute yourself.
Jeremy, my second and last question was just in regard is, God forbid something happens to the sculpture, it's broken, damaged, will the park be responsible to repair it right away? And that's it, and thank you.
I can answer that question. Artists are responsible for repairing any damage or vandalism to the artwork in a timely fashion. So that's typically, in 48 hours or less. If it's really dangerous, they need to do it immediately. They are also fully insured. They have to provide general liability insurance. So that also names the Parks Department as well. So in the event that someone were to be injured by the artwork, there would be that coverage there.
And then,
Thank you.
Cesar, I'm sorry, I put your hand down. You're next, and then Sam, but we have to move on.
Yes. How are you? My name is Cesar Zuniga. I'm the chair of the community board. And I just want to come back to the theme of community engagement. I think there's a couple of things here that I think we need to kind of have community engagement conversations with the community. I think one of the things that you should know about our community is that we have a real sense of community around here. We have also been a community that has been historically underserved and marginalized. And we have, I think we have a real sense of, commitment to really prioritize a host of things, including the arts from within the community. And the fact is that this is coming to us for the first time. And I think one of the other, really important things to consider here is that our open spaces are very limited in this community. And so asking us to share our open spaces is a big ask, and it requires engagement, not just a presentation that sort of gets sprung on us in one meeting. I think My suggestion would be that we table this conversation and we find ways to engage a cross-section of the community, a cross-section of stakeholders in this community. We don't have a lot of spaces, and we want to, I think obviously we would love to work with artists such as yourself, but we really also want to figure out how art and how space is how it centers our community and our artists and our vision of what we want in our parks and along our waterfront and along our community. So my suggestion would be that we table this for now, and we have a real intentional community outreach and engagement with the community to have conversations about this.
I just wanted to add just a couple of things just about our program in general that I didn't share before. Is just I totally appreciate everything that was shared here. I did see a question at one place about funding work, public artwork. We actually don't get any funding from the city for public art exhibitions. All of the exhibitions are self-funded by the artist or an organization that they're working with. So I will say that unfortunately we don't have any funding to give to artists, but we do want to make sure the community is involved and to have those conversations and make sure that this is something that, everyone is going to be happy with. And I do think Judith's intention is to engage the community in this work and have it be an educational thing in the park. And ultimately also the area with the tree stump, we thought it would be an area that wouldn't really impact a lot of park usage, but if that is not the case, we'll listen to maybe other suggestions that you might all have.
Yeah, and then we got to move on.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything that Elizabeth said. I'm very much about community. I'm doing projects right now with Pratt Institute, and also just, as you can tell from the Our Memories project and the project, in fact, that I did in Spain. All of these are really important to me. So all of you are really important to me. So I very much want that dialogue to happen. And that's what happened in Thomas Paine Park. We presented at the community board, and then I had schools come and visit the piece. I worked with local groups there. And so this is very important to me, and having that conversation is. So
Yeah, but then we need to move on.
okay.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, I'll be brief. My first question has already been answered, which was, what was the level of community engagement?
We got a super majority.
My question was, what was the level of community engagement? And it sounds like we can certainly do better. With regard to our green spaces, we hold our green spaces dearly, and we're very limited in those spaces. I am of the opinion that we certainly need to have more conversation on this, as in my humble opinion, I think that's going to change the look of Sunset Park. And I'm also of the opinion that those sculptures, that art is better suited for Bush Terminal Park. So I think we need to engage further conversation.
Thank you, Sam. Elizabeth, can you confirm that this is a temporary installation?
Yes,
yeah, it's only intended for, we had intended for April to December.
Thank you.
Yeah, just before we move on,
Okay,
I would no, before you leave, Judith, hold on. I would definitely like to have you guys come back before April. We've seen the presentation. Now let's have some real discussion on it.
Absolutely, and I think maybe it would help to share the final the models of the sculpture, because as some of you said a comment and things like that, I think you'd be very happy with the final sculpture is going to be very much of a fossil-like form that creates that conversation with the community. And in fact, I would love to like follow up directly with some of you about ideas to engage the community. So if there's some of you that I can share, you know, my email address and things with, I would love to.
Please reach out to the community board. We could help you disseminate the information and do outreach. I'd also want to just call your attention to the questions in Q&A. You may want to just look through that as well, because some of those might be able to answer at an upcoming meeting.
Great, excellent. And the whole purpose is to enrich everyone's lives. So that's the purpose of this.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our second presentation from Doug Steiner and his staff pertaining to Bush Terminal Play Area, having a community discussion tonight. Mr. Steiner?
Hi, am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Someone's got to mute, I think, your background noise.
There's
Jeremy,
background noise.
can you please mute everyone?
Yeah.
Everyone's muted. Doug, you could unmute yourself.
Oh, I thought I got muted too. Okay.
You did. You did.
Felt bad, like an eavesdropper there. I'm Doug Steiner of Steiner Studios. We've been selected after a very painful process with EDC to be the developer of the new film and television studio project at First Avenue from 43rd to 51st. And our mission tonight is to just hear from the community and get input from the community as to what they would like to see in the way of a playground. We're committed to building a playground in the park. It's part of our deal with EDC. And we want to not have it designed and then bring it to the community. We want to hear from the community and try to get a feel for what most of the people want, so we know what to design, and so it can be debated for open discussion. And I think that's why we're here. I would like to, I'm technologically challenged, so I have somebody who's going to advance the screen for me. Nicole, next screen. So the agenda tonight, we'll talk about the format of how we're going to do this, give you a little history of Steiner Studios. Then we'll have a presentation by our landscape designer. We want to go through the presentation completely first one time, and then the landscape portion will start again, where it can be back and forth with comments. And when we do that, we're going to do it in the order because we have translators here for both Spanish and Mandarin. We'll do English first, then Spanish, then Mandarin. And that is the agenda. Let's move on to the format. Everyone is muted. And if anyone hasn't already seen these phone numbers, these are the numbers to listen to the translator. Next. The history of Steiner Studios. We started Steiner Studios in 1999. The Brooklyn Navy Yard at that time was a very undesirable location for businesses. It looked really bombed out. This is the site of our first building. This is was the parking lot of where our building is now. The next photo is, let's go one more, Nicole. And at the entrance to the studio, Nicole, next photo. This is 25 Washington Avenue. When this was built, this was the headquarters of the US Navy in 1942, I want to say, for World War II. And that's the kind of neglected, dilapidated state it was, left in and worn down to when the Navy vacated in the 1960s. And I think it's very similar in the Navy Yard to what we're dealing with here. It's not as bad as the Navy Yard was, but I think the main building on our site is really in bad shape. And our plan is to restore the two other buildings to their historic original presence. But we're here tonight. I'm just giving you an overview of who we are, what we've done, but our focus tonight is just to hear from you so we can plan the right thing that you want. Let's go to the next slide. This is the first building we built. we've expanded 8 times, and we've brought thousands of jobs and really helped Myrtle Avenue.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Doug,
Yeah.
you're not sharing your screen. I'm only seeing your face. You're showing slides, but they're not on my screen.
Doug, it's not on your side because we see your slides. It might be on the user side.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm going to continue. We had, I think, a significant impact on the Myrtle Avenue merchants and South Williamsburg merchants. Very good economically for them for all the services that our clients use. Let's go to the next slide. This is that same building after historical renovation. And we also put in here Brooklyn College as a graduate film school, part of the CUNY system. I'll just point out something interesting. On the roof, you see those antennas. We restored those, and that is where all of the communications for the North Atlantic Fleet during World War II were run from that. We think we've vastly improved the look of the Navy Yard and have been helpful to its renaissance. Let's go to one more slide, and then the advertisement is over. Nicole? And this is just another view of our first building. I want to show you just where the product is made. We're really a content factory. TV shows shoot with us, movies, commercials, music videos. This is the inside of what a soundstage looks like. If you see the 2 people along the bottom, you get some sense of the scale. They're massive, they're soundproof, they have a lot of electric because the lights, one light might be 20,000 watts. And the HVAC, the air conditioning has to be very, very powerful because of all the heat from those lights. And it has to be silent because of the sensitivity of the microphones. And this is where the sets get built. Having no columns means they can design whatever they want. The designer can do whatever he wants. The lighting can be from whatever angle they want. It really gives them the maximum creative flexibility. Let's go to one more. Nicole? And really, I don't go to the movies much because I liked how it's created. I'm more fascinated by the creation. And this gives you a sense, the people who build the sets and the people who paint the sets, the talent that you don't see that are not the stars are it's just really impressive. It's fantastic to be around all that creativity, and people love what they do. So it's nice to be in a place where everybody loves working there. The last slide we have is just a sampling of, Nicole, one more. Just a sample of some of the things that have shot with us. It really, all the major streaming services, all the major channels, and all the major LA studios. We don't make any movies ourselves. We don't make any television shows. We provide the factory where they make their product. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our landscape designer, Michael Van Valkenburg Associates, and the principal who is doing the work for us is Gulliver Sullivan. And I guess I'll turn it over now.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Wanted to start with this picture of Bush Terminal Piers Park and to kick off what is supposed to be a series of prompts to start this conversation about introducing a play area to this beloved park. I will just say one personal thing. This is sort of like one of Brooklyn's best kept secrets. I had no idea there was a park here, even though I'd lived here for a couple decades, and I was blown away when I came here, and I just saw how much people loved running up that hill. Anyway, so we could just move on to the first of a series of questions to talk about how you might think of play in this park. So first, we wanted to just engage you in thinking about, you have several playgrounds and parks, not enough parks maybe, but parks in this community. And we wanted to hear from you what's out there and what was most appreciated, most popular. So is there something you want more of, or is something that's missing? So if you go to the next slide, we just mapped that out. The community district 7 And I will say this one thing, that while there are a lot of playgrounds, one of the great things about having a play area integrated in a park is that you get much more intergenerational interaction. In other words, a park is an environment for something for everyone to do, not just play. So grandpa can sit there and walk around or look out at the views. A kid's playing, mom and dad are doing something else. And it's a great opportunity to do this with Bush Terminal Piers Park. In the next slide, we could move on to see a couple photos of the things that we've seen in your neighborhood. I'm sure they're familiar. And we'll come back to this slide again to just get some information from you about that, your answers to that question. Next slide, please. So we also want to hear from you about what you most appreciate about Bush Terminal Piers Park. We're asking this for a lot of reasons, just because we don't want to put something there that would take something away from a place that you love. But the exploration of nature and the edge of the river is certainly a tremendous asset of the park. Next slide. The topography and the planting character is actually quite distinct from a lot of New York classic parks. And it's really exciting to see something that's raw, robust, and natural. Next, please. And then, of course, it does have many of the amenities of other parks for accommodating ball fields, much needed in every neighborhood in Brooklyn, frankly, seating, biking, running, and just strolling to enjoy the landscape and the river. So again, we'll come back to this about what you think is most important about this park that we should be cognizant of when we're thinking about this play area. Now, the other thing we want to talk about is the placement of the play area. And if we could just go on to the next slide, is this the best place? It is important to know that this is the area that we've been directed to pay attention to because of the Sunset Park 197A plan. And we think there's a lot of strong points to this as a location, having designed many playgrounds in many cities. Firstly, it's adjacent to the restrooms, drinking fountain, and the entrance. All of these are typically very important things for a play area. Another thing I would add is that it's in what I was saying about there's something for everyone in a park, and then the play area only adds to that. It's just very good that it's very visible. And you can see all these different things that are going on in the park, and it's not tucked away in a corner. Next, please. And this is just a photo that we took when we were out there, just understanding that context with the skyline beyond, sort of an exciting, exhilarating context for playing, honestly. And it's not flat. And I just want to say that can be a great thing for this, because every time I've gone out to the park, I see kids running up that hill. That hill is one of the best thing ever. So you'll see in the next sort of slides why slopes could be a great thing. Next, please. And then sort of maybe the core of one of the things we really want to hear from you is what kind of play activity is best here. If we can go on to the next slide, there's lots of different kinds of play. There's the classic stuff that everyone probably imagines, like slides, swings, the move-in play, and making that accessible to everyone in those contexts, which is every playground we design is designed to meet accessible standards for all. The next slide, so you have climbing, balancing, but then we also think, you might want to think about the idea of sensory and play. Just to explain a few of these slides, from other parks in the city, in the region, and some of which we've designed, being able to interact with something that can activate chimes, like in the upper right, you dance on these things and a little mechanical chime goes off, which animates the sound environment around the playground, or kids being able to go into a talk tube and talk it through this tube, and someone at the far end of the tube can hear it. Or in the lower left, there's this sort of crazy stone that can spin around, so 3 kids can make the stone move around. It's a tactile experience that's quite exciting. Or kids just love anything that's out of scale generally. So this idea of having like an oversized instrument, like a xylophone, is is a blast for kids. So next slide. And another thing that we think might be also a great complement to the kind of character this particular park, but is increasingly being added to parks in the New York area, is this idea of nature play, using natural materials and not being as clear. Like if you look at a slide, I'm supposed to climb up that and slide down. Nature play is all about, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to explore. And that's a whole new level of like play psychology. And it often is, again, something that studies have found engages intergenerational interaction. Like, mom, dad, can I do this? And what can I do? And it's an important thing for play. Next, please. So your answer to this might be no, but often people like to talk about whether there's a theme of some sort that you might want to bring to the idea of making a play. And we'll show you a couple examples to help understand what you mean by that. Next slide, please. So again, using the example of the slide, yes, that's a slide. I know I can go up there and slide down. That's fun. But then again, it's like, why, Dad, why is that a banana? And why is it so big? Like, it's like a funny thing, just like it's playful and starts a conversation. Same with the animals, or often now we're also trying to talk to our kids about the environment and ecology, because, their futures have a lot to do with that right now. So being able to start a conversation about what's around them, and as well as having fun. So next slide, please. And then we always have to think about who we're really making this for. So the next slide, just, these are the classic categories that anytime we start thinking about designing a play area, like, is there something for toddlers? We know that the core group is usually the 2 to 5-year-olds and the 5 to 12, just because they're active. There's a lot of energy. Most of us in New York apartments take our kids out to these places so they can get that energy out. But then on the other side of that, you also need to pay attention to, where do you sit when you have to be nearby, but you don't want to be in it, or in the active zone. So just something to think about for if that prompts a question about what you think, a question or a sort of opinion on that, we'd love to hear that. Next slide, please. I think is sort of the catch-all of anything else. So we also will take comments that don't fit any of those questions if they're at top of mind. So I think at this point, we're going back to the beginning, and the first question about the playgrounds in your neighborhood that are most popular, and take some questions.
All right, before we begin, I'm going to open it up to the committee members. Please try to keep your questions to 2 minutes. I appreciate that. Any committee members got their hand raised?
There are a few hands up, Victor. I'm going to start calling on them, but I have to leave the meeting myself, so I'm going to turn Natasha into the host once I start calling them. So the first one is Cynthia Gonzalez.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, my question is, well, first of all, this area is a plan for between 43rd Street and 51st Street. Now, I know that initially when we were discussing the park and discussing, that we needed to have more than one access point. To this point, we don't have the 51st Street side, but as a visitor to this particular park, which I'm in love with this park because it's really fantastic. The views are incredible. One of the problems that I've saw from the beginning, and this is, I guess it's a community problem everywhere you go, is parking. Parking, because you really cannot expect seniors to walk there and then, you know, walk all the way through regardless of the access area that you have. But there's no parking in this park. Is there anything that Steiner Studios can do about that particular problem? Because, you know, you know, very few people come to the park because of accessibility, and parking is an issue. So that's my question.
I can speak to that. We're as part of our work on the project, we're also going to finish the rest of the park that was never done. This community's been waiting, you know, over 20 years for this park. And unfortunately, when it was created, there was environmental contamination that had to be remedied, and nobody expected to have to find that environmental problem. And we will be completing the south end of the park, including a new entrance, relocating the entrance, and pedestrian and bike separate bike path and pedestrian entrance, and completing that ball field area, picnic benches, the promenade, the waterfront area, and things like that. We didn't show any of that on this presentation because we're trying to keep this session limited to the play area and what we should start designing for. The design for the remainder of the park is based on what the Public Design Commission approved, and what is already there will match in look and feel and materials and everything else like the rest of the park. But your comments are well taken. Part of our obligation is to build additional parking for the park in a good location. We have not fully resolved where those are going because we're still working out our plans, but we will be adding additional park, and the EDC was insistent that that be part of the deal. And I just want
because
to
my point is that you're going to have parking for your staffing. So can that also include parking for, you know, for the park area?
we are doing parking exclusively for the park area, separate from our site. But as we configure things, we're working on where the best place would be for that. I share Gulliver's comment. I was blown away by this park. I didn't know it existed. And I think the only negative is the dilapidated buildings on our site when you look back. But this is a fantastic park, and we want it to be used as much as possible, and we want to make it the best park that Sunset Park that can be here. So I understand the other issues, and we will be addressing those. But if we could, I'd like to keep the conversation tonight to just soliciting input from the committee and from the members of the community so that we hear what they want in the play area portion of the project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Doug. Next on the list is Pat Ruiz. Pat, unmute yourself.
I'm doing that right now. Hi. Thank you so much for this presentation. What I wanted to know was, I didn't see anything for the mobility impaired, wheelchair bound. What are your plans for that community?
We want to accommodate that. We will accommodate that. It depends what the play area consists of to tell you how we address the accessibility aspects of it. Gulliver surprised me. He said there are slides that are accessible to all. Yep. That's also why the sensory play is there for people who are blind, people who are deaf. There are a lot of different senses that we want to appeal to, but we don't want to dictate anything. We are here to solicit what you want, and it's our job to make sure it is as accessible as possible for everybody. And that's not just that's also intergenerational.
I appreciate that. It's just that I didn't see, like you see in other parks, you have the special swings for the wheelchair bound. As someone who has a family member that's in a wheelchair, I think it would be great to not forget that we have lots of folks with all kinds of, I hate the word disabled or whatever, but that's the case. And, for them to all be involved, the blind, the hard of hearing, everyone should be using the park and able to know what's around them. So thank you so much, and I really hope to see that really soon.
And I think that's part of what makes the park a melting pot for everybody. It's not just ages, age groups, and ethnicities, but it's also all kinds of physical abilities.
Yeah.
Next, I'd like to call on Stacy Boyd.
Thank you. And thank you for getting community input. I really appreciate that. I actually have some comments and one question. So will there be future listening sessions and a time frame that people can send ideas to you and ways that they can send ideas to you? Because I know a lot of parents and families are interested in this.
Let's go to the last slide. We have our email address up here. And if anyone doesn't get it down in time, I'm sure Jeremy and the community board can provide this, but this is a standing email address for everything related to our project, and all of the park suggestions should go here as well. If you don't get the chance to speak tonight, this is a good way to get in touch with us, or just to add to what the discussion is tonight. So it's an ongoing process. It's not
put it in chat. Put it in chat.
I'm sorry, who was just speaking?
I'm just saying, put it in chat.
Mary, just wait your turn. I'm going to get to you, please. Just mute yourself for right now.
Okay. So if there's a way, I can't even know how to advance slides, but if we can put it into the chat with the phone number, with the email address, I'm happy to do that. Nicole, if you know how to do that, great.
I'll do it.
Okay. And what's the time frame for the listening session? Like when will it end?
Tonight or
no, I mean like when people are sending to this email address.
It's fuzzy right now. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Okay.
Okay.
But we really want to do something that has a lot of buy-in. The last thing we want to do is start off on the wrong foot, and I want it to be great. We also will have a turnstile from our site into the park, and we hope all of our clients use it. The more active it is, the better it is.
Right. And so my comments then is I reached out to a lot of parents on the PTA of my son's school and other listservs before this meeting to get other people's ideas who couldn't make it tonight. And I think that a lot of the things you were talking about are actually what people are interested in. So definitely intergenerational playing and also accessibility were very important. But more than a dozen people wanted some sort of loose parts. So a nature exploration area like the Zucker natural area in Prospect Park. Someone mentioned something like the Yard, which is the Playground NYC area on Governor's Island. Someone else mentioned Anji Play, the sort of open-ended play. There was a piece by Cass Holman that's at the High Line. So there's a lot of, and I'll just email all of this to you, but there were a lot of ideas that were about open-ended play, pieces that you could move, simple machines to push and pull, and that was very important to people. And then I would say personally, the thing that I like about this park is the natural area and the view. So I would want any play area to respect that. And I have to say kids already play there. So I wouldn't want that hill and those rocks to go away. Thank you.
Great.
Next, I'd like to call on Alexa Aviles. Alexa, you can unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation, the opportunity. I definitely would like to encourage a more engagement. I think our district has a number of incredible elementary schools with children that you could certainly bounce lots of ideas off of and who'll be infinitely more creative than all of us. So if there is an opportunity to do that, that would be amazing. I think one part of our community that I have heard is often feels left out and really needs unique areas are our children with special needs. I think families have navigated, kind of the open spaces, but often feel that, it can be a real challenge. Unfortunately, people don't understand, there's discrimination, they don't understand. And so I have heard a real need from families around some dedicated play spaces for children with special needs where they can feel safe to be in their full glory of who they are and where families feel welcome. And so I just want to Obviously, I know you want to offer a space that engages everyone, but this is a community that is often overlooked, and has had a real challenge with even the existing play spaces that we currently have throughout the community. So I just wanted to offer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. I'd like to call on next Nick Azadian and then Mary Jo Eister. Nick, please unmute yourself.
I'll be very brief. I don't have too many comments directly towards the park. Again, I would strongly encourage you to listen to the input of the community, specifically many different voices, because that's who it will serve. My concern is primarily when this is built, it'll be attracting a larger audience than it already is. And it's not so much the park, it's how you get to the park. And Natasha, this is something that I would really like to bring up with DOT, is how can we make it so that it is safer to get to this park? Personally, I've ran in this park many, many times, and many times and many mornings, I've almost gotten mowed down by a truck. So I can only imagine what it will be like for, children or anybody else trying to go to this park, at various times of the days, which is located on the edge of an industrial zone. So I think that needs to be brought up and addressed, and really thought of very carefully, in order to not have any more additional fatalities, either crossing 3rd Avenue or anything else. So I would really request that we speak to DOT in regards to this. I strongly encourage a park to be put in here. And, Doug, I'm very happy that you are, really seeking this out to try to get input. But I think DOT also needs to be heavily involved, just because it is very hazardous to get to this park at certain times of the day. And there's also a lot of blind spots because of trailer parking and things like that, in order to get there from the upland sections of Sunset Park.
Nick, thank you for your questions. We'll pass that along to Jeremy for him to reach out to DOT and follow up. Thank you. Mary Jo Eister, you're next. Please unmute yourself.
Hey, hi. So I've been going to the Bush Terminal Park since it opened about 4 or 5 years ago, mostly for bird watching. But I know of a couple of things that are going on there. And I just want to kind of redirect the conversation. Bart Chizar, I don't know if anybody, Victor, maybe but Jeremy did, and I don't know if Dan Murphy's still on the call. Bart was proposing to do a kind of like a rebuild of one of the decrepit, failing piers, and turn it into sort of a learning center where kids could go, people could go and see, high tide, low tide, pools and whatnot. Then also there was a project that kind of got squelched by COVID. Rob Buchanan had kids building boats in Industry City, and and taking them out on the ponds between the jetty and the walkway. The thing is this: playgrounds are good, slides are good, but this is on the waterfront, and I feel like we should take more advantage of the waterfront than, building slides and swings. Kids will climb trees, but, they'll go in the water. We could really do something that's more, I feel like it's more important for the waterfront to have the kids be able to walk on a pier that's underwater sometimes and above water sometimes, and tide pools, and getting boats that, actually some of the kids have built. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you for your question, Mary. Let me call on Joan Body, and then after Joan, Karen Rolnick. Joan, unmute yourself.
Doug, first I want to thank you for coming back. I know Flushing Avenue very well, and it's amazing of what you've done. Anyway, getting to the park, I think a theme is a great idea. Health food, when I saw health food, my eyes lit up. And that banana is adorable. This is a long time coming. And it's great to see that we're finally getting this project completely underway, and will finally come to a great conclusion. Small children, the toddlers, do need someplace to run around safely. A little swing here and there is great for them. And that's about it. And good luck, guys. I thank you again very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Karen, thank you, Joan. Karen Rolnick, please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for this. This is wonderful to be participating in this process. I raised 3 daughters and a stepson from babyhood to adulthood here in the neighborhood on 33rd Street. And the one thing that was really lacking, noticeably lacking in this neighborhood, is anything for older kids, adolescents and teens. This is a really vulnerable age. They take to hanging out on street corners because there's no place for them to go, or tire piles or wherever they can find, because there's no place for them to be that they would enjoy being. And I would like to see us engage our middle school kids and our high school kids and ask them what they would like to see there. I'm thinking along the lines of like a skate park. The closest one is in Bay Ridge, and I cycle by there several times a week, and it's always being used. It's always popular. It's wholesome activity, and kids that age really need wholesome things to do to keep them out of trouble. So I would like to see us engage them. And so far as a theme, it is an industrial area also. And I think that you might want to look to like Domino Park in Williamsburg did a really nice job of incorporating the industrial flavor and making it fun and whimsical. So that's what I got to say.
Natasha, I could just ask a question. Doug, I know this presentation, you're talking about the playground. You focus more on the playground, but could we have subsequent conversations dealing with maybe a skateboarding place for the older kids, the roboing for the little pier area over there? Because these are some things we have discussed with EDC, and some people have come forward to definitely deal with the rowing in the park, and maybe we could have a conversation about that.
We are here to hear what you guys are interested in and who is best served by it and what that group looks like, however varied or whatever the range of ages is. We also will be contributing annually $25,000 for programming at the park. So to the extent there are nature tours or educational opportunities, we have that programming. And just like this session as to how to build or what to build as the play area, it will be based on community input, how that programming monies are used. So I think that can address a lot of what you're talking about. To the extent, I don't think the play area can be all things to all people, but I think the programming is another way to accomplish some of what everybody wants in a park. I forgot to mention, Gulliver did do Brooklyn Bridge Park, and that has a lot of features that you have mentioned. And he's great at what he does. We think we got the best guy in the world for designing this.
Excuse me, Victor. We have 2 more board members who have questions. 3. Cindy Vandenbosch, then Daniel Murphy, then Gladys Bruno. Cindy, unmute yourself.
Hi. So thank you so much for doing this listening session.
I do know Doug Steiner from working at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I guess there are a couple things. First, I would also like to say that, in fact, if you want to engage the Ability and Access Committee that focuses on accessibility for the community in some capacity, that we do have such a committee for the community board. And so the accessibility issue has come up in conversations with folks in the district, and we want to make sure that that's included. And then I have a question about just general maintenance. So I understand you have this programming budget, but once this playground is built, will there be sort of a built-in maintenance contract of some sort? How do we ensure that all of these wonderful features will kind of endure from year to year?
The maintenance is really a parks issue, and we wanted to make sure parks wanted to make sure they're not really part of this presentation, because this is just a listening session and not a design session per se. I know I sit on the board of the North Brooklyn Parks Alliance, and I know Prospect Park has their alliance, and I'm not Parks is underfunded, and I'm not sure the best way to address it here. I know how we deal with it in North Brooklyn as best we can, but our focus tonight is just on what to build.
Sure, I understand that. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure we all on the community board keep the maintenance issue in mind. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Sam. Next is Dan Murphy. Dan,
Thank you,
please.
thank you, Natasha. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug, Mr. Steiner, and Mr. Shepherd, and everyone else. Just wanted to address a couple of things very quickly. To Mary Jo's point, and to your point earlier, Doug, that you were going to finish the park as part of the agreement. That's not entirely true. There's a large portion of the north end of the park, the piers that Mary Jo referenced, that are in the original footprint for the park plan. We'd love your help in finishing that portion too, but that portion is also kind of in the longer term plan between EDC and the community board. So, and certainly Mary Jo, we do remember our Chazar very, very warmly, and we hope he's still doing his work, and like to support him for as long as he's doing his work. I'll just say beyond that, I want to add my voice to the paramount importance of accessibility to the playground for children of all levels. And the last thing is putting lots of swings. Those swings are in high demand up in Sunset Park. Everybody loves swings, 2-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and sometimes even 50-year-olds. I'm speaking for a friend. Okay, so thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dan. Gladys Bruno, please unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone, and thanks. I just wanted to say that it would be really cool in the programs that you have, that they can have like gardening things, how to plant trees and know like tours on the trees that are actually in the park, and to learn about them. I think that would be something that all kids of all ages would like. And also to keep in mind that where the park is I believe is on the entrance on First Avenue, that the hospital is right there, and ambulances go through there, and all kind of trucks, and the bus. So we have to keep security, at its forefront, because there is a lot of traffic through there, like almost all day. And that's what I wanted to say. And thank you again.
Thank you, Gladys. Victor, we have, so far, I don't see any more panelists with their hands up, but we do have 4 attendees that have their hand raised that would like to ask a question.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Just please keep it at 2 minutes if you can. Thank you.
Yep, sure. All right, so just give me a moment. Okay. Anna Kay, you have 2 minutes to speak. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I'm very excited about this play area coming to Bush Terminal Piers Park. I bring my twin 5-year-olds here a lot, and they ride their bikes around, they climb on those rocks, they run up and down the hill. But I'm excited about a playground, a play structure being there as well, and so are they. One thing I'd like to note, and just maybe to consider when planning this, is that this is an area where there's no shade, and in the summertime, when you bring kids to the park, that's a big consideration in which park I'm going to be bringing my kids to. And John Allen Payne Park on 65th Street has been a big draw because it's very shaded. And so in the summertime, it's a nice area to go. Looks like the park's going in a wide open space where there's no natural shade. So just considering building shade structures over some of the play areas. And this can also allow for, depending on the shade structure, also allow for play even when it's raining. And I mean, as at John Allen Payne Park, there's quite a bit of shade there. You can almost go there when it's not heavily raining, but lightly raining. And I'd also just like to echo what some other people have said about just considering older kids. If you're going to put in swings, to also put in swings for older kids. Again, just a nod to John Allen Payne. The swings there are not just toddler swings. They have toddler swings, which are great, but they also have a set of swings for bigger kids. And you see teenagers there that, are able to hang out and swing and kind of feel free. And so I would hope that would be included as well.
Thank you for your question, Anne. On next, Vanessa Cordero, you have 2 minutes to speak. Please unmute yourself. Vanessa Cordero.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please.
Okay. Thank you. I too visit this park, and I've visited this park since they opened up. And actually, when I was a kid growing up in Sunset Park, we used to play in this area, even though it was restricted. I don't know if I should be saying that, but one of the things that drew us to this area is the view. So I would like that if you do build a structure, that it doesn't interfere with the view and actually incorporates the view. One of the ideas I would also like to add to the structures would be kids in the city don't have things that you would have in your backyard. That's kind of like when I take my kids to this area, we see it as a big backyard with a great view of the city. So maybe you can incorporate things that they would have in their backyard. Something that doesn't look like all the other parks, because I feel that when you go to other neighborhoods, and I'm going to say upscale neighborhoods that Sunset Park is not, you see different play ideas where people think outside the box. This is not the case. Every park that you can go to within Sunset Park all look the same. They're just generic. They don't go outside the box. I would like to see something like that to incorporate kids, that things that they don't get to experience. Or sometimes I have to take my kids to other parks and nicer areas so they can see that there's other things to play with. And I would like to see that, not just the same ideas that we have. And I did see that in your presentation. So I think that was pretty cool. Also, the shade was one of the things I was going to bring up. This park has no shade. So that's also something to take into consideration, because we have been there and on a sunny day and it gets pretty hot and there's pretty much nowhere to go other than home if it gets too hot and the kids get overheated. But that's pretty much it. I just hope that when you guys do incorporate something, it doesn't take away from the park itself, where the play area is like an eyesore. Because right now we actually enjoy the park for just what it is. We can go there, we can play Frisbee. It's an open space, which we don't have a lot of in Sunset Park, because Sunset Park, the park itself, gets really crowded. And this is kind of a park where not a lot of people know about it. So we kind of have more space to play and, you know, have a good time. Thank you for your time.
Great.
Thank you. Next is Sarah Miller. Just unmute yourself and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi there, thanks for the presentation. I definitely agree with some of the things that people have already brought up in terms of safety issues and how you connect the site to the wider community in a safe way. Issues about climate, you know, after about 10 a.m. in July and August, Bush Terminal is a really brutal place to take anyone who's under 5. So also older adults are not going to be there. I guess the main 2 things I wanted to talk about today, though, were the real strengths of the park. You've identified it's the natural elements, it's the views from the site, and I think those need to be enhanced. You know, it doesn't make sense to really bring in any other themes when you have such strong themes inherent to this site. And I think those are things that can be built on in terms of anything that you introduce, in terms of whether it's hard materials, whether it's play structures, and even conceptually. I would also just really welcome the opportunity for play throughout the site. I mean, the way that this listening session and kind of the idea of the playground is conceptualized, it's like you're plopping in a play area in this one person, you know, this certain square footage that you've identified. And as you've already said, you're not going to be able to accommodate like the vast differences and needs that, you know, different people in our community have. And so I just would really encourage the landscape architects to think about how they can incorporate opportunities for incidental play throughout the site, meaning how do you challenge different groups of people to use the site in ways that are creative, that challenge young kids to use their gross motor skills, but that also provide comfort and safety for older adults, for people who have different ability or mobility needs. So yeah, I would just try to encourage the landscape architects to think in a broader way of not just like, here's my square footage and here's the play structure that I've picked out from the catalog, but how can I actually really engage people in the park? And also, how do I enhance and connect people to the real strengths that this park already has? Thanks. And oh, my other question was about just the process of whether the community will have access to the master plan and any like detailed design process that's happening as this continues.
I think we take one step at a time. We are just soliciting input for what the play area should consist of. And if we have the right location, and, you know, I hear contradictory things tonight from different people. So I think the challenge will be to figure out what is the best direction to go based on a lot of different input that doesn't all jibe. You know, you heard playfields left as is, and then you hear string things through the park. I hear about maintenance. A lot of the maintenance issue, at least for the play area, can be influenced by what's chosen for the play area. I'm not a fan of sand because sand collects junk pushed underneath, you know, it gets sunk and then it's just hard to get out, and kids get full of sand in their shoes. So it's things like that that we can take into account, regardless of what's chosen, to try to make it as maintenance as good for maintenance as possible.
You, Doug. We just have 2 more questions from the attendees. 2 more people. I mean, Angela Anzolino. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you. Azzolino. Good guess though. Disease confused people. Anyway, thanks for giving the presentation. I've grown here up in Sunset Park, and I'm very familiar with the area and our different parks. And what's beautiful about Bush Terminal is that it's the only park that really, I believe, gives nature to the community. Growing up in the city back in the 70s and 80s, you know, I didn't really have a sense as to what it was to be out in nature. We didn't have, as someone mentioned before, the backyards. we didn't have a good sense of flora and fauna. And one of the beautiful things about the park, and I know if anyone here is from Uprose or has contact with them, has to do with, you know, keeping it a natural space with native plants and the landscaping and all that. So I just want to say that for those folks who had mentioned before, keeping it true to its sense of place, keeping it like a nature sanctuary, to me is of great value. The quiet that I experienced there, the sounds of birds and watching the ducks in the water, that's all beautiful and very rare for large urban centers, especially in our neighborhood, which is, you know, comes from different ethnic backgrounds and economic states. So the other thing that I think would be interesting is taking more of a museum type feel, if you would. You talked about themes, so perhaps instead of having a playground in a concentrated area, have little parts of a playground spread out throughout to keep people moving and to keep the parents and children engaged in looking at different things that and different views that that park has to offer, I think would be a great asset. Sound and sensory is wonderful, except I would not want sound to be such that it would take away from the birds and the water splashing and the wind howling. We have a lot of noise pollution in New York City, Sunset Park for sure, and coming down to the waterfront is a place of peace, I think, for many people. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I just want to piggyback off of the folks that commented about accessibility with regard to getting to the park, whether it be by car, foot, or bike. It is extremely important to start looking at traffic calming measures along that corridor in the upland streets. I know the EDC and DOT are working on plans for the Brooklyn Greenway connector. 3rd Avenue is a huge problem. So anything that we can do to make crossing 3rd Avenue to the site, not only for the park.
Excuse me, Angela, I just need you to wrap this up because you have other people who have questions. Thank you.
Yeah, participants, but for your employees as well is worth looking into. So thanks for your time.
Next, Maria Roca. Please hold on. Hold on. Trying to unmute her. Okay. Maria Roca, you should be able to unmute yourself. Oh, hold on 1 second. Hold on. There's an issue with Maria Roca. Maria, just lost you. Maria Roca, you had your hand raised. Okay, we'll get back to you, Maria. Sorry. Cesar, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. So a couple of things. My name is Cesar Zuniga. I'm the chair of the community board. Doug, thank you again for engaging. I have two, I guess, comments, maybe one question. One comment has to do with process. You know, first of all, thank you for doing this tonight. And I think we have so many voices in this community. And as I mentioned in the previous presentation, the open space is at a premium here in this community. And I think tonight just begins to scratch the surface of engaging the community. So I would like to invite you guys back to continue to do other sessions, particularly because there are some other tools that we can use within the sort of context of this space, the Zoom space, to maybe break us down into smaller groups and have a little bit more of a participatory kind of action going on with particularly around some of the design questions, right? And I know, you know, getting people's input is messy, but I think I think we need to embrace that messiness and try to come out of this with with a a cross section of perspectives about what this open space should look like. And again, I really want to thank you, because I know you guys are already starting that with this tonight. The fact that you're providing translation is also a real important gesture, and I really appreciate that. So again, I want to invite you to continue to come back to us and use the community board as a space where we can continue to have these ongoing conversations. So that's process. In terms of the actual park, I'm the dad of kids with special needs, and I think we've heard this with a lot of other folks. Spaces to accommodate kids with different abilities, I think really is something that I think the entire community can get behind. And I think if we do it well, I think there are lots of examples out in the world where we can kind of address all of it, right? The kids with different ways of learning, but also and different abilities, and also deliver a mainstream sort of or deliver a park for mainstream sort of kids and folks. I encourage you all to absolutely use the resources of the park. The elevation changes, I think, make a really interesting experience for kids who play. I think there's something very appealing and compelling about particularly, again, as we try to check the box of kids with special needs, features that are sensory in nature. I think that goes a long way in the disabilities community, where you have features that really sort of speak to the senses. That's it for me, and just really, again, wanting to encourage you not to be scared off by the messiness of having too much input. I think at some point that messiness kind of works itself out, and again, I really appreciate you guys coming here and engaging the community. Let's keep doing that together.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Doug. For those who want to send Steiner Studios their input for the Bush Terminal Park play area, send your suggestions to Sunset Park Community Input, all one word, at steinerstudios.com.
Is that all the questions that we have?
No one has their hands raised in panelists or attendees, Victor.
Okay, so Mr. Steiner, Doug Steiner, I want to thank you and your crew for coming here today. As our chair has stated, a lot of ideas were thrown around today, but we really do want to keep dialogue open with you to come up with something that would hopefully please the masses. So I thank you very much, sir. And hope to.
We have one hand raised, Maria Roca.
Okay, she's able to come on?
Yeah, she's here. Maria, are you able to unmute yourself? Maria, can you unmute yourself?
Natasha, is that something you can do for her? Can you unmute her? And I know Sylvia Augusto also has a question.
Hold on, I'm trying to, but for some reason she keeps disappearing from my list. Hold on. Oh, wait.
She's there and she is unmuted.
Okay, Maria? Maria Roca? We can't hear you. Can you try signing out and signing back in? We can't hear you. All right, who was the next question? Cesar, you said someone by the name of Agosto?
Natasha Sylvia Agosto is raising her hand.
Okay.
Unmute.
Okay, Sylvia, can you just unmute yourself, please?
Hi. Oh, I've been volunteering at this park forever, and I love this park. I love Sunset Park and Bush Terminal very much. One of the things that I was a little worried about the location is they're going to have a container that they approved where they're going to have canoes and boats. I was invited by the Sunset Spark, Yahida and her husband, and someone from Governor's Island, the harbor school. And I watched these young people make these boats. And I watched them, I actually taped them placing the boat in the water and having that opportunity. Kids from our community, from Sunset Park, from Dewey, were able to build a boat in Industry City and then go there and put it in the water. And they're just, it was so lovely to watch our children, our kids from our community be part of this. And the only thing I'm a little worried about is that the container that we're supposed to get is right next to the other container where the maintenance is, which is where you guys think you want to put the playground. Just, throwing that out there. The only reason the container didn't come in was because of COVID, but it's been approved already. The second thing is I would love to see Nature's Play there, something that for balancing, climbing, something that will be able to withstand the weather, because it's by the ocean, by the water. We don't want any metal stuff that's going to get rusty and bad. Another thing, Bart has great ideas. I've worked with Bart so many times in volunteering, and we would love to see something for the young people in the middle schools and high schools. We had college students volunteering there to work in there. This past summer, I had 80 students from a school in Park Slope volunteer in pulling out weeds. And we could do something with nature there, that nature area that's also there, that we could work with young people and school teachers. We would love to have the school teachers from all over. They would love to have a site where they could be able to do some work with the students and work with Bart. Bart does a lot of work with the water there. He films a lot, and he plants a lot of different plants in the water to clean the area. But one of the last things that I want to say, and it's very important, I love bringing my grandson there. It's a very special place for me and him. And sorry, I'm getting emotional. The last thing I want to say is that I'm a little worried about where the jetty is and where we have an oyster farm, which is unbelievable, but the water is not good for people to touch.
Okay.
And be in that water. That water is dirty. So it's been exposed to too many things. So that's the only sad part, is that, that would be a problem in a sense. So one of the things that we did have this past year that I noticed was that we have people going into the oyster area and pulling out oysters, which is very dangerous for them to eat.
Sylvia,
okay, that was it. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Maria Roca, you could unmute yourself, please. Hopefully this time we can hear you. Can I get some help here? Because I'm trying to unmute Maria Roca and it doesn't seem to be working on my end.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing with Maria where we don't seem to have everyone's square has a mute or unmute function for us as
using
hosts.
I got a message using an older form of Zoom, so I'm not able to unmute her for some reason.
Yeah, and
Maria, can you unmute yourself or put your
way? Do you
She's
have
a
microphone?
panelist, that way she could speak, but I'm not able to unmute her.
Yeah,
I don't think she enabled her mic. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, because we don't have the Maria, if you can hear me, we don't have your mic. It doesn't seem like we have a mic that's in your window. So if there's a way for you to activate or plug in a mic, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we don't have the mic icon next to your name, Maria, so we're not able to unmute you. Is it possible you could try to unmute yourself or submit your question in the Q&A and we'll see if we can get it answered?
Hold on, she's gonna maybe plug in. Let's see if that helps.
Does
If she
Zoom
plugs
allow
in.
you to call in on a regular phone?
Yes.
Maria, she's gonna plug in headphones and see if that fixes the problem. If not, maybe Maria, you can call in. Let's see.
No, not yet, nothing.
Hold on, let me go. Wait, hold on. No. I don't know why. For some reason, the version she's using is, I guess, old, it said, and
Is there a number she can call into, Natasha? Can we give her a phone number she might be able to call into?
bear with me. I have to pull that off. Maria, if you can hear me, you can join by calling 1301-715-8592.
The screen shows enclosed captioning. I think, can you say the number again? Because I think it went too long. They were repeating.
Okay. The number is 1301-715-8592. And
you should give her a password too. There should be a
Yeah.
password associated with that.
the webinar ID is 944-7351-9413, and the passcode is 216612.
Would it be easier if I give her my cell phone and she talks on the speaker? Would that work or maybe not?
I wouldn't give that out on the. Hold on one second. All right. I'm not even able, because of the version she has, I'm not even able to send her a message.
Can we move on until you get her?
Yeah.
There is the email address to send comments to. So.
Right, could we just get her her information, her question, then we could forward it to
That's
Steiner?
fine. That's fine. So Maria,
Okay,
if you get your email, we'll send it to Doug so he can answer your questions.
Okay, we're sorry about that. All right, again, thank you for your time, your presentation. Hopefully we'll see you real soon again to keep this dialogue going. Hearing no more questions, I want to call the meeting at this time. I want to thank everybody for tonight. Thank you, Natasha.
You're welcome. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Christine. Have a good night.
Thank you for the interpreters for this evening. Thank you very much, Steiner Studios, for your presentation and for presenting providing the interpreters for tonight. Looking forward to more future discussions. Everyone have a good night and stay safe.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.